Chicago with the lead.
Gort, Batista with the catch.
Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life. Hand down, man down.
Yeah, I can see how disrespectful he's being right there.
No, I went to Temecula and brought you some dirt.
Yeah, that's a technical.
Mama, there goes that man.
Welcome back to The Bounce. I am Kev. With you, or with me, I should say, are some very special guests. We have two of Bite Size's own content creators. We have Johnny NFL, the host of Necessary Roughness every Tuesday nights at 9. And we have our resident NASCAR, MLB, and tonight our NHL expert, Nate, in the house. We'll start with you, Nate. Welcome. How you feeling tonight, sir?
Oh, not too bad. A lot of exciting things going on in the world of sports, but especially in the world of the NBA here. I got to say, I feel good about this show and feel good physically because I just went on a 4-mile hike earlier. So there we go.
Ooh, attaboy. John, how are you going to match that?
Yeah, no, I was sedentary today. I just had a couple meetings. I cannot match it. Took my kids on a walk, so I got a little cardio in, but not quite the hike like Nate there. No, I had another show before this, so I changed jerseys in between. That was a good exercise for me. I'm back in the KG.
There we go. Got some continuity there. Yeah. I got John's last appearance in the archives. You got two kgs.
I'm looking for a Brooklyn number 2. I'm in the market for one.
Hit us up in our Discord if you have a Brooklyn KG.
Yes.
I think John.
If you got a lead on one, I need to round out the collection.
Speaking of leads, John, can you give us an update on the current Eastern Conference Finals Game 5? He is going to be our update in the NBA world today. What's going on?
I got the game going on a side screen. Commercial break right now. Celtics are up 47-32. Haywood Highsmith just came up with a big steal and layup on the break. They say don't trust guys with 2 first names, but I don't know about guys with 2 last names. What you think about that? But Haywood Highsmith making big plays for the Heat in the absence of Gabe Vincent, who's out tonight, which is a bigger hit than it may seem like to if you've missed a couple games this playoffs or anything like that. With Tyler Hero going down, Oladipo going down, Vincent's had a huge role. But the Heat are. Well, it was before Game 4, but before Game 4, they were 3-1 in games in which they trailed by 10 or more at one point or another. So,
there's a chance.
They might have them right where they want them. I don't know. It's in Boston, though. The Garden's rocking, so we'll see what happens.
I don't know who it was. I can't remember the talking head, so I won't be able to credit anyone, but I did see a prediction earlier today that the Celtics would come back from 0-3.
Was that Greenberg?
Was it? Maybe. It sounds like something an ESPN guy would do, but I don't know. I don't want anybody to catch me.
I saw that headline too. Yeah, I remember that. It was something like that. But
I think there's a good chance they'll win this game. I still expect the Heat to win it. I cannot believe they are still underdogs. We'll get into that.
Jimmy Butler and Grant Williams just got tangled up a little bit. That's bad news for the Celtics. Yeah, there it goes.
And it's gone. So we'll dive back in to that game and that series and even preview the NBA Finals a little bit here later on throughout the episode. And John will pop in as key updates are needed. And we will have some other updates throughout the night as needed, because as I mentioned, our resident hockey expert will be here, and he will be, Nate, showing us updates on the Western Conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Western Conference Finals. What do we got, Nate? Let us know what's going on.
Yep. So Game 4 this evening between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. two of the top teams in the West. It is a 3-0 series currently right now for Vegas. The first two games are pretty close, and then you had all hell break loose for the Dallas Stars in the last game with their captain getting suspended for 2 games after pretty wicked, I want to say cross-check to why did I forget? Mark Stone, when Mark Stone was on the ground. So they suspended him 2 games. So if Dallas loses this game, he's suspended for the first regular season game next year. But currently it's 1-1 right now. It's about 5 minutes into the second period with William Carlson scoring for Vegas and Jason Robertson scoring for Dallas on the power play. So it's pretty close. I'm expecting a slugfest. I mean, the West was not as many top teams compared to the East, but it definitely was real tight moving forward. So this series is kind of a bit of a surprise, even though a couple of the games have been pretty close. I kind of expected Dallas to win last game, but the Vegas came and knocked them out in the teeth, and Dallas never recovered. So, Michael Allen there. I can't take anything seriously from a Packers fan, so I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, there it is. Shout out to Michael in the chat. We do appreciate you. And Nate will be popping in as needed to update us on the Western Conference Finals in the NHL, because we don't have an NHL show here, because despite the narratives in the comment sections right now, we do hope to someday cover all of the wild world of sports. One day we're going to have to get someone who knows enough about baseball to chat with Nate, or at least carry me through as a third leg in that race so we can talk baseball. But I don't know that we'll have any major league updates for you tonight, but we will keep you up to date on conference finals in both the NBA and the NHL. And Michael did not come here to catch strays. Oh, I can't wait. You can also catch Michael. He's a co-host of Necessary Roughness Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, hanging out with John and Nick. And I very much look forward to the NFC North preview, whenever that's going to be, when we have 3 true fans. Honestly, if we can't find a Lions fan, I might just volunteer myself for that episode, because I just want to be a part of that whole debate. That'll be a whole lot of fun, as you can tell already. And maybe we'll have some fantasy football shenanigans going on. I hear rumors about a network league incoming from the ADP folks. So anywho, Nate, let's kick back to the NBA here for a second. We got John joining us right on time. Look at that. Wow.
Major update. Tyler Herro's on the bench dressed like the kid from Polar Express.
That's hilarious.
He looks like shit. He has it's like that with a hat on.
I have to clip that. Sorry, say that again.
Celtics still lead by 11, 50-38 now. 12. Smart's at the line. 4:23 to go in the second.
After all that love, how Tyler Herro will ruin the Heat's chances at the NBA Finals video got, I think I'm going to have to clip that special update.
He's already ruining it. Oh, man.
So what do you think, John? I want to stick with this game for the moment. I know we're going to end up coming back to it, but we're going to go to the Western Conference Finals. We're going to talk about LeBron. We're going to talk about new rules, about the NBA Finals. So before we go away from this, looking at where we're at right now, we know Gabe Vincent's out. Do you see any chance that the Celtics win this series? Not just tonight, but is there any chance that they are going to make it out into the finals?
This sounds like a cop-out, but I won't think that unless they win Game 6 in Miami. Like, I feel like even right now, they come out of Game 5 with another win, no Gabe Vincent. You go back to Miami for Game 6, like that's still a steep hill to climb. if maybe they do a whiteout, you're screwed if they do a whiteout.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It still seems really tough for me, and I wouldn't even count the Heat out of this game just because how mistake. I mean, the Celtics seem like they've kind of got a rhythm back, but how mistake prone they've been, how hot and cold they've been shooting, mostly cold in the conference finals. Save game 4, of course, but I don't know. The Celtics look pretty good tonight, but the Heat, again, it might be like, because they came out the same way in game 3, but the Heat kind of just ate their big haymaker in the second quarter and came back and dominated the rest of the game. So I could still see it swinging back that way. I'd give it 95-5 to the Heat, but 5% is actually kind of a big percentage. So that's a lot of respect for Boston, but it's going to be really tough. The Heat could just lose another guard, and then all of a sudden, who's playing?
Exactly.
Something like that could turn it on its head, but I don't know.
They could fall out. Yeah, they don't have much depth left. So Nate, I'm going to push that same question to you before we move on. I'm going to add this here to the screen. So we've got our fans over on Twitter voted. They said Heat 61% was what they said. That's who's going to win tonight. Nate, who do you think wins tonight?
Celtics win going away, and I also will throw down the gauntlet and guarantee that the Celtics make the NBA Finals.
Throwing down the gauntlet. Guaranteeing it. Let's go.
What? That is insane. All right. Nate throws down the gauntlet with a guarantee. I am shocked. Michael says, I'll be sad if Boston wins. They're just so unlikable. Maybe I just hate Dave Portnoy. I don't know. I'd just be sad. Hey, no arguments here, honestly. But I cannot believe it. We have another Celtics guarantee here. Nate, this is the hockey coming out of Nate here, because it's not that big a deal for a hockey team to come back from 3-0 to win it all. If memory serves, it's never happened in the NBA.
Never in the NBA.
You certainly have had plenty of 3-1, but yeah, I don't think it's ever happened in the NBA. I would have to look some more. I just, I feel like Miami's got to come back to earth a bit. I mean, they have good players, don't get me wrong, but I mean, Boston is just that much better. I mean, I don't remember the records off the top of my head, so just, stay with me here real quick. But, I mean, the Celtics showed time and time again throughout the year, that they were one of the best teams in the East, if not one of the best teams, overall. I mean, they won the division by 3 games. They were only the second seed by a game, but, they had the second best overall record. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really watch much Miami Heat basketball this year, aside from what's been going on in the playoffs. But it seems like Miami had some issues in the regular season, gelling among other things, and I know they're hitting their stride at the right time. But aside from this consistency in the playoffs, I mean, how long is this consistency going to last?
That's a good question. Especially with the players like Bam Adebayo, who has been inconsistent even in this very playoffs, but he's been better as the playoffs have gone on. But yeah, he's always had that sort of Dr. Jekyll, the Jekyll and Hyde kind of situation where he'll have his really bad games and his really good games. And you wonder if this theoretical situation happens, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen because Jimmy finally hits a wall and he's run out of gas and he can't carry them anymore, or Gabe Vincent's injury lingers and they have no one else to play, because at this point they're down to what Duncan Robinson is the last guy they can bring off that bench to start at this point, right? I don't know who else. If Hayward Highsmith goes down, then what are they going to do? Everybody's going to have to put their notifications on. The Heat might be DMing you for a tryout at point guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that's a sentence. Man, the Heat could be in trouble if Haywood Highsmith goes down.
I don't think they would be asking me for a tryout at point guard. I'm a little not agile for that.
Hey, listen, you can just, you know what? Your scouting report would say Nate can use his frame much like a Jalen Hood-Schifino in the pick and roll. He uses his body well to get positioning inside. You know, we just won't pull the camera up. You know, it's all about how you phrase it. Okay, sorry. Shameless plug. I have my Jalen Hood-Schifino NBA draft profile coming out on Sunday at the Last Word on Sports. So check that out. I might just read it to you on this channel later on at some point. So be on the lookout. I did draft profiles here last year. I'd really like to do them for you guys again.
Yeah, because no one will be able to find it by search because you'll have to spell it to do that. So maybe you should read it a little bit.
I tell you what, being an NBA writer has helped me. Well, you know, things like Giannis Antetokounmpo. You know, it makes things like, okay, Hood-Schifino, that's easy. I can do that.
Yeah.
That's great. Give me a hard one. Michael's gonna take his talents to South Beach. Oh, Lee, welcome. What up, chatters? Now's a good time for me to mention that we appreciate you commenting and chatting. We want to hear from you. So let us know what you think about what we've been talking about. Are the Celtics going to win this game? If so, will they win the series? And if you have any other thoughts later on in the show, we will be giving a loose NBA Finals preview. So if you have thoughts, maybe like our dear friend James, who has already said that the Nuggets are going to win. He also said Heat in 5. So while we're talking about it, I should, as James' representative today, point out that he did say the Heat would win this game. So Michael says, I'll just go in and foul like crazy. Let me at Tatum. There we go. So Michael's ready to did you say, what did I say? Giannis. Did I say Giannis? I might.
That used to be a real role. When Shaq was in the league, they would just get, the shittiest 7-foot white guy they could find and be like, listen, burn up fouls. We don't need anyone good getting fouls on Shaq. Todd McCullough, get out there.
Chris
put
Dudley.
A body on him. Yeah.
Greg Ostertag.
Jeez.
Luke Longley.
Yeah, man. That was a real role.
Maybe a Scott Foster or a Jeff Foster, sorry.
Scott
Pollard. Yeah.
Scott Pollard for the Kings back in the day. He's a foul eater.
Oh, yeah. It was a job.
It was a real job, yeah.
I have to be careful now. I got to make sure I pronounce Giannis correctly. Yeah.
Giannis.
Well,
it's a 19-point game now.
Who does?
40 seconds to go. Celtics are up by 19 here.
Oof.
Oh, Bam with Jesus. Bam with like the ugliest 7-foot fadeaway that banks in from straight on.
That's a Bam
the
shot.
Weirdest looking shot.
Yep. Yeah, he, despite whatever issues he's got offensively, he definitely does get the members roll. Like he's in the club. He gets that shooter's bounce a lot.
The club, yeah.
I don't get it.
The gods look on him with favor.
Before we switch to the Western Conference Finals in the NBA and talk a little bit about that, I believe Nate has a hockey update for us. I wish I had a soundbite.
Yeah.
2-1 Vegas now after Jonathan Marsh's show, which I completely kind of butchered that.
Michael, we need a pronunciation check. Thank you.
Just scored off of a couple of assists from Braden McNabb and Jack Eichel. So, getting after it here in the second. So I'm, as a very biased individual, I'm very excited right now. I mean, you can't see me because of my camera issues, but I am.
Yeah, we should point out for transparency's sake that Nate is in fact a Golden Knights fan, although no one else here, I don't believe, has a dog in this fight. My Montreal Les Habitants are horrible. So, John, do you have a hockey team?
Yeah, Wild, but I'm not a huge. I'm aware, I guess, of the goings on like if they're in the playoffs or whatever. But no, I certainly do not have a dog in this particular fight.
I think John here should be rooting for Vegas because Dallas stole the Stars from Minnesota.
It's true.
That's why we hate the Lakers too. We have all the lakes.
That's true.
What are we doing?
Hey,
I-
man,
The Oceaners over there.
I've seen some lakes in LA. They got some lakes.
Doesn't count.
And that ain't water either.
Not as many. It's not a defining feature of the landscape.
I would love to know the one player that Michael knows not named Wayne Gretzky in hockey. There we go. Lee says he's got biggest Vegas fan. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I do want to know the other player. I feel like it might be super obscure.
Yeah, I hope it's some just like, yeah, I had this one hockey card growing up and it's this guy. Oh, it's funny. I don't know why, but John's avatar is also a picture of Nate. So that's funny. So I feel
Why?
I feel like I'm in the Matrix 4 or something right now.
Jesus, man, John.
Michael says Wisconsin has more lakes. What were you saying, Nate?
I was like John with his wondrous photo right there.
Yeah, he's looking. Listen, you guys, it'd be hard to pick you two out of a lineup, but you know, I want to say I'm going to ask you something, Nate, because I can ask you this while we wait to get into the whole Lakers Nuggets series, and we know that the Lakers got swept, and we now have heard that LeBron James was injured throughout the entire playoffs. I believe it was a torn tendon of some kind, and that he is going to require surgery. So I ask you, Nate, do you believe these stories, and do you think this means the end of LeBron's career?
I don't think it's the end of his career. I could see it more him take a year off and then play 1 or 2 more years because he really, really wants to play with Bronny. So, you know, I mean, at times he didn't play very good in this series, but I mean, I don't think anybody on the Lakers were very consistent to begin with. So, I mean, I wonder if they would have shot him up with a bunch of stuff to keep him going.
Varsity Blues style?
Yeah, there we go. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think the injury is probably as bad as it is, but, you know, maybe it's kind of given him an excuse to just, you know, take a bunch of time off and then move forward with, you know, playing with his son here in a year.
Yeah, there are those, I think, wondering if this is a cap, as the kids would say. John, what do you think? Are you buying into the how the legitimacy, the severity of this injury, and do you think LeBron will sit out a year like Nate suggests?
Well, listen, if it's not cap, that's pretty wild. He played 48 minutes in Game 4, put up 40, 10, and 9. Like, I don't know, man. He, you know, and you could see it. I mean, he's been such an Iron Man his whole career. Just a freak of nature, so maybe. But it's weird and also not weird that it came out after they were eliminated because you don't want to tip off your own scouting report with like, oh, I might be a little weaker trying to go to my, what was his right? I'd be a little weaker going to my right. I might have the side of the body wrong. But it's also weird because it's like, oh, we just got swept with, you know, skyrocketing expectations with every game we win and every round we win.
Turns out
I was kind of hurt. So like, it's whatever, you know. Put an asterisk over the Nuggets Western Conference Championship.
Yeah, with a torn tendon in his foot. I don't know which foot, but yeah, that is sort of the could need surgery this summer. Expects to take the next couple of months to get re-energized. I fully expect him to play next season. That's what I'm seeing. But I have to admit that I'm pressing X to doubt here, Nate, because uh, we've seen a few fibs, a few stretches of the truth from LeBron. I'm not doubting that he's hurt. Um, I have seen it happen, and it hasn't been LeBron, but I have seen famous, well, in this case, it was, to be honest, it was Logan Paul, but I've seen people over exaggerate, say that something was torn, and then it ends up not being torn, and then you just kind of never hear anything about it again. Now, this would be a little bit different, but it could be possible that this isn't something that requires surgery. I certainly hope that it doesn't, because I'm not ready to see LeBron be gone, no matter how much I give him a hard time for some of his weird habits and his need to feel like he predicted everything ever. So I think we'll see him next year. I don't think he's going to sit out. I do agree with you, Nate. He wants to play with Bronny. I think above all else, that might be what keeps him in the league for another couple of years. But I am hoping that this is more like that time when he hit that big three against the Warriors and he claimed that he had been poked in the eye and there were 3 rims and he just aimed at the middle one. I'm hoping this is one of those things where he's just seeing an opportunity to add to his legacy, and he can say, oh, by the way, you know how I was playing 48 minutes a game. I did that on a torn foot also. I hope that's the case. I'd rather see that than this be the end of LeBron. But and the Lee says, let's see. I think he didn't want to admit that they went down in 4. It could be something along those lines, right? Michael with the Layla energized. I love it. And James is here. Welcome, James. He forgot he was in the Central Time Zone. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you.
Yeah. He doesn't really have a flu game. He needed something.
Yeah, he's
Something
got
for the kids to-
he's got the torn tendon series.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
now it can turn into instead of being a disappointment, which is weird. And we talked about this in the Discord, so check out our Discord, links in the description. We talked about this when someone, I believe it was ESPN, was talking about this, how shocking this was. No one saw this coming. And I got a little heated and kind of got angry and said, this is some bullshit, because anyone who watched from the end of the regular season throughout the playoffs saw this as a possibility. A lot of us weren't certain that the Lakers were going to get past the Grizzlies. And then all of a sudden, them getting swept by the best team in the NBA is a shock. No, it's a shock to ESPN, because they've been pushing this narrative that the Lakers are good for as long as anyone will listen, because they need the Lakers to be good, because they're the biggest brand in basketball. I understand what you're doing, but it's just a little foolish. And now we see people like Chris Mannix coming out saying the Nuggets aren't compelling, they're not interesting, and that's why these major sports media companies aren't covering them. I think that's absolutely absurd. I think it's ridiculous. But yeah, anyone could have seen this coming with the Lakers, in my humble opinion. Michael says the foot game. There we go. Yeah, he'll have that. James said, my bad. I was watching the Heat get waxed. Yeah. Sorry, James. I did confirm your Heat in 5 prediction. Sorry. Things were looking a little better for you when we went live about it, but c'est la vie. So we've talked a little bit about LeBron being injured and all that, but can we talk about the Nuggets for a little bit? I feel bad that their name isn't first here. We got to give them their flowers at this point, right? Because even the bigger brands that are doing it, they're doing so begrudgingly, acting like we're not to blame for not talking about this great team all year. I want to have you all know, and James, take your flowers in the comments as well, but this program has been preaching the gospel of the Denver Nuggets since the preseason. And we are here to do victory laps. I tweeted out an article that I published in March that said 5 real contenders for the NBA Finals. Who do you think was on the cover? It was the Denver Nuggets. So I'm sorry. I'm going to stop bragging about this program, but we get some wrong. We got to talk about when we get them right. John, how are you feeling about the Nuggets? What's your takeaway from this sweep, and any thoughts you have about them leading into the finals?
I'm feeling pretty good about them. I think they'd be the comfortable favorite against either of these teams, even if the Celtics get really hot. And and win the 4 straight, I think you still got to have Nuggets as the favorite. It's a little disrespectful not to, frankly, just because they never wavered. It was never in question with them. The Suns got a couple games, but it was when Devin Booker shot 85% from the field, and just irreplicable stuff. So it's just not what I get frustrated about is like kind of what you were hinting at, is that national tendency to downplay the small market juggernauts in the NBA. It happened even when the Duncan Spurs were at their best. Like there was still a little bit of that. Like think about JJ Redick said something really interesting today with Gilbert Arenas on his show, which is cool. Those are two of my favorite guys to listen to talk about basketball. But that he feels like we're kind of easing into a period like that right after the Lakers three-peat, when it was the Spurs won in 2003, then it was the Pistons in 2004, Spurs again in 2005, 2006. It was that Dwayne Wade Heat team where it was like, up until the big three Celtics were back in it and the Lakers were back in it, there was that period of time where it was these small market teams, these boring, good defensive teams without the Spurs obviously had Duncan, but without this unquestioned alpha superstar putting up these crazy numbers. Like Duncan was such a cog in the machine.
It was a team approach. Yeah.
It was a team approach. The Pistons were such a just go to work was that era of the Pistons, right?
Do you hear the lunch pail references, right? Everybody shows up with their hard hats, the Boris Diaws of the world,
Yep. The Spurs, potentially the Spurs' second best player for a lot of those runs. Sorry about that.
All right.
Was coming off the bench half the time.
Yep.
Yeah. So
absolutely. Yeah. The small market bias, it is a frustrating thing to deal with. And, I'm going to think that'll lean into Nate here, because I want to ask him something. Being the casual observer, right? He could be maybe someone who probably I could give you a pass if you don't know much about the Nuggets, Nate. So what is your thought now that you finally had some exposure to this team? Do you think they're legit? Do you think they're the truth? And do you think they should get more national attention?
I mean, in all honesty, it may not be a very big market team, but my whole thing with it is, there's a lot of compelling interest on the Nuggets, to be honest with you. I mean, how can you not be very in tune with what, Jokic, excuse me, is doing?
Careful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've got players such as obviously Jokic, 2-time MVP, could make an argument that should have been, back to back to back. Jamal Murray, after coming back from injury, a pretty gruesome injury in my opinion. Michael Porter Jr. kind of coming into his own right. I mean, he was a very high prospect, and he didn't seem to be very good at first. And I mean, his college experience was not very much. I mean, with injuries and stuff, and there was a lot of questions there. I mean, you got Aaron Gordon, who is, in my opinion, a cast-off from the Magic and, what they're trying to accomplish, and he's come into his own right there. And how about for this past series with the Lakers dumping Caldwell Pope, and, I feel like he played very well in this series. And I just want to, give a shout out, not that the national media would give a shit, but just give a shout out to Thomas Bryant as a, fellow Indiana Hoosier there. He seems to be damaged too.
Plus, yeah, that's what he gets for asking for LeBron to pass it when he had that record-breaking bucket in front of him.
Right. Plus, I mean, I don't know if this would be the case, but Bruce Brown seems to, have a case for Sixth Man of the Year, or at least of late seems like he could have a case. But, they just have a lot of interesting pieces together, and I don't feel like they're not one that traded in. Wow, I didn't actually know that, James. That's actually pretty awesome. Um, it's not like they traded for a ton of these players. I mean, they did get them in some trades, but they have homegrown talent, and that homegrown talent is leading them, to a potential title.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the audio listeners out there listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, James, our wonderful co-host, has let us know in the comments that Joker was the fourth ever to average a triple-double in the conference finals, the other three being Wilt, Jason Kidd, and Magic Johnson. So that is awesome. Listen, this guy is on vacation and he is still contributing to the show. So if that hasn't earned a like and a subscription or follow from you guys out there, then I'm not really sure what poor James could do. So, if you could see it in your heart to give us a like, a sub, a share for poor James, who's working on his day off right now to provide you awesome stats while we talk NBA conference finals, we sure would appreciate it. And also hang out in our Discord. We'd love that too. So, Nate, do you have a hockey update for us? Because we do have some hockey comments in here. So, anything going on in the world of ice?
Yeah, so unfortunately, Vegas went up 2-1, and now Jason Robertson from the Stars tied it up with another goal. So he's on his way to a hat trick, which hopefully he doesn't get here. But this is, this game is kind of turning into a knockout, slug out sort of game here. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay, it is getting close, and we have to go back here because we got our answer, John and Nate. Michael, the other hockey player that he knows. He met Nick Schmaltz. He's famous. I have ran into a famous person at a bathroom story too. Maybe that's more for dweeb though. I met Rob Liefeld, creator of Deadpool, at a bathroom once at a Comic-Con. So, small world sometimes. That lesson of the day, guys, just always be cool when you're in the bathroom. You never know what famous person might walk into the urinal next to you.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough. And we have another comment here just for Nate, which I love. We got, my bad.
Sorry, I was doing the same thing.
Double clicked it. Nate, are you a baseball guy? I know the answer to this one. Are you all in on Atlanta this year, or are you a Mets fan? Ooh, I'm going to just Nate, the floor is yours.
I mean, if I were a fan of the Mets, I would be in perpetual sadness and so. I mean, in terms of the NL East, it's hard to not go with the Atlanta Braves because I think they're the most complete team in that division, even with some injuries on the pitching front. I mean, just too many good bats in the lineup there, all the way from the top to the bottom. I am, unfortunately, as is Kevin, a fan of a very mediocre ass team at best currently in the NL Central with the Chicago Cubs. But, that whole division is basically mediocre ass. I mean,
so the AL Central.
Yeah, something about the Midwest and mediocre ass baseball apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody in the Central. I mean, the Brewers are 27 and 22, but everybody else is at 500 or lower. But everybody's within 6.5 games currently in the NL Central. Unlike in the AL West, just to touch on this a little bit, with the Oakland Athletics being 10 and 41. And they are 22 games back already, and we're only 50-some games in.
I like that. Thank you for the baseball minute, Nate. Now, again, those of you listening, we would love to bring more baseball content to you. So if you know someone, send them the link to our Discord or send them our Twitter. We'd love to talk to some folks and get somebody else up here. I will gladly work the buttons and pull up comments and be like, hey, chatter said this, chatter said that. And we'll let the experts talk baseball because, listen, I very graciously stepped away after Little League because baseball was just not a thing. Now, I can still hit a mid-range jumper with some of the best in small gyms across the Midwest, but I can't do anything for you in baseball. All right. So stick around here for your basketball knowledge. But if you know some baseball folks, we would love to have them on sometime and talk to them, maybe even on a late night bites or a morning show. So, John, did you have any other thoughts about the Nuggets or about the Western Conference Finals that we didn't get a chance to address before?
Yeah, sorry, chat. My daughter escaped from her bedroom and showed up down here. Just had to put her back, but yeah, no, the Nuggets and to James's point, he was just pulling up some Jokic all-time stats. He also has the most triple doubles in a playoff run. In a single playoff run, he's got 8 this year, which passed Wilt, and he's going to get more, probably.
Right.
I think that not only is the market a little muted from the national lens, the stars themselves are. Jokic and Murray might be the best duo in basketball, not in terms of cumulative individual talent, but just as a unit in the way they play off of each other on the court. But they're both like pretty soft-spoken guys. They're not necessarily marketing themselves a ton. They're not super outspoken. They're not, doing much off the court, frankly. They're just hoopers. And that's not super sexy for the national media, for the average consumer, or maybe the casual consumer of the sport. But that's why the ratings thing kind of pisses me off, because it's like, if you like basketball, you're gonna want to see this team in the finals.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And there's plenty of stories too. He mentioned some of them, like the Murray with the injury, Jokic doing these things that he's doing. Just the idea, if you're an NBA either historian or someone who maybe just enjoys the league narratives versus I root for specific teams, how could you not like watching this Denver story? You can equate it to the bad boy Pistons of the late 80s, or even take, Jordan. There are these great teams throughout history who went through these growing pains, who couldn't get over the hump, and then they finally did. And that's what we're seeing, on top of the, Murray 2 years without playing and now gets to reassert himself as a top player in the league in front of the nation. There's all these cool little stories that I think, for anyone to say that this team isn't compelling, they're just doing everything they can to save face, to be like, yeah, my bad, guys. I haven't been paying attention. Somehow I haven't paid attention to the team with one of the best records in the league throughout, from beginning to end. Maybe very early we had Utah. We had some weird things going on out west early on, but after about a month or so, Denver got to the top, and they never lost that lead. So how can anyone act like this team isn't interesting for basketball fans is beyond me.
Yeah, and we're not talking about the 2016 Hawks here that won 60 games. Like, no, this is like, it's not one of those 1 seeds. You know what I mean? It's just like you have a back-to-back MVP on the roster, and people are worried about the ratings.
Coulda, shoulda, might have been.
Coulda, shoulda, would have been 3. It's a regular season award. I get it. But the dude is just undeniable. Jokic, I mean. And I think the cast they put around him is finally like perfectly complementary. At the 4, you don't need a stretch 4 because Jokic can stretch. So you get one of the best cutters and finishers you can find at the 4. You get, a 3-and-D KCP. Michael Porter, when he's healthy, is awesome. And then Murray, obviously, the 2-man game with Jokic and Murray is unbelievable, the way they play off each other. Because you can do the 5-1 pick and roll or the 1-5.
Or the 1-5, yeah.
Jokic can handle it. Like, it's so nuts.
Yeah, we were talking about that one of the last times we were live. How when they went to the 2-man game, it was Jokic running the point with Murray posting up Schroeder and occasionally setting screens, and then depending on if they switched or not, you could see Murray flare to the corner. And then all of a sudden they're switching. And so then Jokic is like, oh, hang on, let me actually get into the paint because they've put a guard on me out here on the perimeter. And meanwhile, the other three are just kind of doing their own thing on the other half of the court. And normally I'm kind of against that. Like, that's been well documented. I don't like when 3 players on offense, if they're, it's one guy wants to stand in the corner. I respect that, but we shouldn't have more people standing around than we have moving on offense. Doesn't tend to work very efficiently very often. But how do you stop that when it's your 7-foot tall center running the point, and then you have all those different options just off of a 2-man game? And then meanwhile, you got those other cutters while everybody's focused on that 2-man game. You have a couple of very good cutters. And as you mentioned, a KCP who can just drift to the corner, and you have a 7-foot guy who can hit him across the court from anywhere on the court. He's tall enough and has the passing ability to do that. So this is going to be really fun for people to watch regardless of the matchup. I'm worried it just might not be close. If this is boring, it's going to be because the Nuggets just roll.
Exactly because if it's right, if you get a really competitive series and it's Heat Nuggets, if Heat Nuggets goes to 6 or 7 and you've got Jimmy and Jokic both vying for their first title as sort of those, like, I don't know the group I would use to like put those two guys together, but it's both like kind of trying to get over the hump. Like Jokic obviously is kind of ascended to the NBA mountaintop, at least in winning those MVPs, but he's been having to get, in recent years, you got to get past Steph. You got to get past LeBron in the Western Conference. You've got Kevin Durant in the Western Conference that you had to get past in round 2, where all the so-called experts are picking against you because these are that's the old regime of stars that are always there. And then on the other side, it's Jimmy trying to get past, ran into LeBron in the finals in the bubble, and then he's been having to get past some. The Bucks and the Celtics have been so good over the years. It's just such an interesting story. Like it's more compelling because on the Heat side of it, it didn't start until the playoffs did. All year you weren't like, oh, what if the Heat, you know what I mean? Like there was none of that. With the Nuggets there was, but then once the playoffs started, it was like, ooh, Golden State or maybe the Lakers will make a finals run. It was all out the window. Like everybody was kind of rooting for a different storyline. It's just weird. And the basketball is going to be really good is all I got to say about it.
Yeah. Either way. And if somehow you do get this Boston hockey-esque come from behind and they end up in the finals, then at that point, I believe you're going to have must-see TV because the hype for that series will be undeniable just because, if this Eastern Conference Finals goes to a Game 7, I think a lot of people will put life on pause to watch that game that don't normally watch it. And we may have Tyler Hero back in there, as James points out, which we talked about that before. We were wondering, now we're behind. I think we had it about around game 3 or 4 when we thought we would see him. So we're a few games off on that. But the question I have here is, are you going to bring Tyler Hero back at a because I can't even, I wanted to say, would you bring him back in a limited role? But then it's sort of, how many minutes can you afford? Heat in 6. Yeah, maybe. I think that's what the Heat will be hoping. My personal opinion, and then I'll hand it to you, John, is that the Heat might break glass in case of emergency for Tyler Hero if they find themselves in a Game 7. But otherwise, I don't think we see him to the NBA Finals.
I agree, because then you can sort of – it's a natural stopping point or a natural transition point when you get to a new series. Boston by 16 right now. But, it'd be tough to work into this particular matchup, I feel like, because I think when he comes back, regardless, it should be off the bench, in my opinion.
Fair.
I mean, I guess there are times where they start a little smaller in Caleb Martin's year 4, more or less. But I feel like it should still be, some combination of Martin, Strus, Vincent, 2 or 3 of those guys, Jimmy, maybe Love, and then Bam. And then Harrow should just kind of be that bench spark, and so maybe sort of run the second unit. And he might not even close games in his first couple back, because I feel like the mojo with that closing 5 for the Heat has been so good. Like it's just tough to disrupt that whole thing, but you can use him to sort of buoy the non-Jimmy minutes, for example, or when you like as an on-ball guy. But like we talked about 2 weeks ago, maybe, it might throw things off. It might throw off the way the offense has been running if you all of a sudden you get a ball dominant guy back in the swing of things and you're like, hey, get back to normal. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. We talked about that. And Nate, I'll hand this to you because I know you're not as in deep in the trenches of the basketball world as we are, but the concept, the question that I have for you is similar across some other sports. We see it in football sometimes with an injured quarterback, but with the timing of this, we know Tyler Hero is a big player for this team. We know he was playing really well when he got hurt, but like John said, there's been a lot of momentum. They've been finishing games with a specific 5 that's been doing well for them. If it's your call, you have a guy coming back, are you going to risk mixing things up and bringing him back, or are you going to wait till the next series? What's your call?
I'd probably wait till the next series unless absolutely it goes to Game 7, which, I personally think it will. Just, guaranteeing the Celtics here. But, I mean, you kind of don't want to mess with continuity, and also you don't really want to mess with, like, the gelness of that specific lineup. Although I got to say, just gambling-wise, I absolutely hate Gabe Vincent. He has screwed me on so many damn parlays. I just don't ever want to see him play basketball or anything ever again.
Well, we love that. I mean, I love Gabe Vincent, but I understand. I don't bet during the playoffs. I think I've talked about this. People have asked me throughout the playoffs for advice on parlays, and I kind of try to casually say, yeah, I mean, could be good. I don't know, because everything just goes out the window. The trends get bucked quite often, especially if you run a 6 or 7 leg parlay. I've seen people miss parlays because James Harden couldn't hit 2 threes, and they got everything else on their parlay, but then one of the things you expect to be a gimme doesn't happen because it's just the world of the NBA playoffs are weird. So I feel your pain on that, but that's why I avoid it. I'll bet NFL playoffs all day long, but not the NBA. Keep me out of that. It just drives me mad.
It's more different from the NBA regular season than the NFL playoffs are from the NFL season, I think. Just because when it's a 7-game series, you're so much more, because there's always a week of preparation in the NFL. But the NBA, when you get to a series, you're so much more dialed into the other team's game plan. It becomes so much more like matchup dependent. There's the adjustments back and forth. Like, yeah, I mean, it's very unlike the regular season, especially with, stuff like that, like trends, I mean, you might see a game where they're just, like with your Harden example, maybe they're just blitzing every Harden pick and roll, and he's not taking threes that game because of how they're playing them. And how could you predict that? They don't really adjust like that drastically in the regular season because you got to get through 82 games,
Yep.
In between games, fucking take a break for a second, you know, like
Yeah, they might come up with a whole new game plan. And there's another factor. What if it's a game 5 situation? Like, what if it's this situation we're looking at right now, where, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see Boston with a 19-point lead. Miami probably won't do this, but there are teams throughout the playoffs in this position. We're down 20. It's a long season, so it feels like a longer postseason at times. We're going to give guys a rest, and we're just going to take our loss here and live to play tomorrow with a fresher set of legs. And then, boom, your parlay's toasted, because how are you going to know that one team is going to come out of the third quarter and hit 6 of 7 right out of the gate and start on a run that just throws everything – it throws all the scouting reports, throws everything out, and then next thing you know, your guys aren't even playing. So, I had people in some group chats today talking about, oh, Jason Tatum's a lock for 30 points tonight, or talking about his assist numbers. And I'm like, good luck, fam. I'll be cheering you on from here. I don't want any part of that. It's hard enough to predict the winners of these games, let alone to figure out the exact ebb and flow. Especially you're going to watch the same Jason Tatum I've watched for the last 2 months and say, I'm going to confidently bet on that man's performance, whether it be good or bad.
Yeah.
How are you going to predict that at this point?
Seriously.
Good for you if you do.
Seriously. Celtics shooting is getting back on track a little bit. If they're on, it's tough for the Heat to win. The last 7 quarters, they've been shooting 41% as a team from downtown. They just went up by 20.
Yep.
Marcus Smart makes one, misses one from the line.
And he just hit a 3 as well.
Yep.
They're up by – I got to say, Marcus Smart has been the biggest surprise of the series, in my opinion. I feel like he's had, for what's been going on with the Celtics with – some struggles. I feel like he's been the most consistent player this series, and I honestly think he's probably one of the more slept on players.
Marcus Smart just hit another 3 as you're talking about him.
There you go. Well, as if on cue,
88-65.
And that's what they so often have needed in Boston. Yet they don't really have a consistent third option. They have lots of decent third options on any given night. Like, how many times have, and maybe this hasn't happened for you guys, but there have been several instances in going back to last year's playoffs where I've thought, wow, Derek White, huh? Like, oh, this is a Derek White game. Here's the game. The Celtics are winning this one because Derek White had 28, but it's just never consistent enough.
Right.
And you don't get, we hear about the Brogdon injury. Apparently he's had a torn tendon in his forearm all season, which maybe explains a little bit about some of his shooting woes. But, that's another guy that you expect, which he did. He attacks the rim. He does a lot that not enough players in Boston do outside of Tatum and Brown. And that's look to score when they have the ball instead of looking, Horford's not open in the corner, I better get it to Jason or Jalen. That's just kind of what everybody else seems to do, unless they're Grant Williams or Peyton Pritchard trying to shoot a 3-pointer themselves. Everybody else just kind of is looking for, let's give it to the man. And so, yeah, they need somebody. And for Marcus Smart, it's just been that lack of consistency. So, maybe we're seeing him step up. Unfortunately, he's just kind of streaky. So I just see this as we're in the midst of a good Marcus streak, and then I don't know that it will last even throughout this series. But right now he does seem to be a bit of a saving grace, especially in this very moment, hitting all those threes right there in a row.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who's kind of like in terms of his aggressiveness and his usage that he has control over, he kind of is always trying to find the sweet spot. Like, I feel like as they transitioned away from IT, and then away from Kyrie, and Jalen and Jason are starting to blossom, Marcus Smart was still kind of taking too many shots, holding the ball a little bit too much, and needed to let those guys get going. And then so at certain times, especially this playoff run, it seems like he's been too passive, where it's like, yeah, let's find Jalen or Jason, and then, I'll spot up because, we have to run something through them. One of them has to ISO. One of them has to do a high pick and roll. If this is going to work, But it's kind of finding that balance, I think, for him in the middle ground where, like, yeah, he's being just aggressive enough to keep everybody honest, and as that third option, and if they got to get that from somebody, and if it's not the same person every night, that's fine. But if it's nobody, some nights they're losing to the Heat,
Yep. I agree with you 100%. It doesn't have to always be him, but they need it. They need to get it a little more consistently. Yeah. Oh, Justin Herbert.
Is it Jaylen Brown? Literally every time somebody talks about trading for somebody for any team, it's just like they could get Jaylen Brown. That's all I've been hearing for like 3 weeks for everybody.
I hear that, and I hear a lot of Mikal Bridges is not. The Nets are not interested in trading Mikal Bridges for this person. The Nets are not interested in trading.
Yep, him too.
Oh, Justin Herbert says his source. I'm going to guess that it's Austin Eckler, but it might be Keenan Allen. But we have a really good source apparently. Did Justin Herbert confirm in the comments there that it will be that Jaylen Brown is the rumor? Even James, James like Herbs.
That's my guess. Jaylen Brown, Herbs.
We like it. I appreciate you, Justin Herbert, joining in the chat, sir. Let us know what your thoughts are on the finals, and that goes for all of you. We've got you. Let me see. Ooh, we are triple streaming here. We are live we've got viewers on all 3 platforms, gentlemen. So that is always fantastic. Thank you all for watching. Let us know your thoughts. We are going to start talking about these NBA finals here that we think we're going to see a little bit, maybe dip into the NBA draft. I know we've talked about some potential trades. I think that's for you.
LeBron?
The LeBron GOAT.
Ooh,
okay.
I don't know, man.
And the Nuggets. Yep, Justin's picking the Nuggets for the finals, and I think that's maybe okay. So we're at the end of the third. So before this whole thing ends, we will check back in with our Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm going to save the NBA final predictions for now, just in case some things get a little wild. We might actually be able to put a stamp on our official finals predictions if the Heat manage to crawl out of this cellar. But Nate, you had some ideas. We talked previously about some the draft lottery has been announced. We know who's getting what picks, and we were talking about some potential trades to trade up. So what do you got for us? Any thoughts on the NBA draft?
So, mind you, these are not trades that I thought of on my own. I just happened to read them in an article on ESPN here. But somebody made the suggestion to trade Joel Embiid for the number 1 overall pick, Toronto's 2024 first round pick, Doug McDermott and Devontae Graham. So Spurs would get Embiid and Sixers would get all of that, which I'm not sure how I feel about that one. I feel like that's, weirdly enough, I feel like that's way too much for Embiid, just how Embiid is with the playoffs.
Oh, man, I would love to hear. So we happen to have a Sixers fan in the chat right now, Justin Herbert. So I want to know your thoughts on that suggested trade. Nate, can you run through it one more time? I'm not sure if John heard it. The Embiid trade for a number 1 overall pick. Nate has the details. This comes from ESPN.
Embiid for number 1 overall pick, Toronto's 2024 first round pick, Doug McDermott and Devontae Graham.
So Wemby, Toronto's first for next year. Devontae Graham and Doug McDermott. I mean,
both solid role players. James says no.
But like, because you know what I mean? Like, what is San Antonio accomplishing with that?
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's kind of
like, I get it from a Philly perspective, I guess, where you're like, all right, let's reset. But I don't know. I feel like there would have to be a secondary move to accompany that. Like, it would have to be something like, I'll sign with the Clippers if you sign Paul George. Like, somebody else has to be going to San Antonio to join that team. Like, it can't just be Embiid. It'd be like, trading Dame for a bunch of assets that make the team you traded him to a non-factor. So it's just like he stayed in Portland. Like, that would be a worse situation for Embiid and the Spurs.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's one I've never heard anything like.
I'd rather have Wemby, and James. James seconds that.
Yeah. That is from I don't know who this is, but I just want to make sure I give credit. That was from Jamal Collier.
Yes. Make sure that the anger doesn't go in Nate's direction. He's just reporting the weather, folks. All right, he is not stirring up the smoke himself. Now, we have a note here from our die-hard sports fan. Let's see. I think Herbert's source. Okay. If the Nuggets win, he says his brother is an all Colorado fan. If the Nuggets win, shake my head. All his teams would have a title: Rockies, Nuggets, Broncos. I get that. We've got some family sports rivalries. What you got, Nate?
The Rockies have made the World Series once and have never won a title. So let's walk that back.
Oh, good call. Good catch. See, don't worry, Herbert. You got that.
They made and played. Was it when they played Boston in like?
Yeah, they came out of nowhere in 2007 and were looking real hot, and then basically came out flatter than Tom Brady's footballs.
That was a good one. Oh, I like that a lot. Oh man. So I've heard a couple of other interesting trade ideas while we're talking about the NBA trade stuff. Now, nothing as detailed as what Nate has, although I do have one detailed one. I'll save this one for the end because this has nothing to do with draft picks, but I've heard rumors that Charlotte might be interested in trading out of the 2 spot, which would make sense. They have 5 draft picks. And then, of course, Portland seems to think that they can package either Anthony Simons or Shaedon Sharpe with the 3 pick and acquire one player that will then make them a title contender along with Dame Lillard. You can probably hear the doubt in my voice, but John, what do you think about either of those trades? Do you see anybody making any candidates for trading up to 2 or 3 in your mind?
Well, the Nets, that's one of the packages for which the Nets said Mikal Bridges was unavailable.
Yes, that was, they said, they were like, just so we're clear, we are not interested in making this move with you.
Yeah, they've probably just seen it projected way too many times. So I don't know what Portland's future picks look like. Are they Stepien ruled out, basically? Because I know they gave him up for like Jeremy Grant.
I'm not sure.
Because I mean, like that, if they could put together a nut, like if it turns into a Philly, just wanting to reset and moving on from Harden, moving on from Embiid, Lillard and Embiid would be really cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, but like, I don't know, because there's nobody out, like there's nobody of a lesser caliber who would actually make that a title contender. You know what I mean?
My whole thing with that is I think the Trailblazers would be better served shipping Lillard out to somebody rather than trying to make a splash on the trade market, because I just don't know that they really have much to contend with, even with getting, a superstar through this 3rd pick here. I just feel like they would be better off kind of tearing it down and then booming from there.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah, go ahead, John.
That's like it's probably a better path forward. I was going to say an easier path forward. It's not, because you're going to have to make the right picks if you want that to work out and so on. But like they could box themselves in so tight if they trade every asset they can scrounge up for like a third tier kind of star, like an all-star caliber player who's probably not an all NBA caliber player, like kind of that area. And then all of a sudden, you've got 2-3 more years of really, really effective Dame Lillard. I don't know, man. That's a tough spot to be in. You've got to win one if you do something like that, because and then all you're going to hear for years is who you could have gotten at 3. Whoever pans out past pick 3, you're going to get reamed about.
Yeah. That is true as well. Yeah. It's a tough one. I agree with, like, I would just be trading Dame Lillard at this point if I'm Portland. If it's tough to say, even if that's not necessarily what he would want, which is weird. It's weird that it's just something I guess I can't quite relate to. If I were in that position, I would want to win a championship, especially if I had the kind of funds to really be able to live wherever. And it doesn't, and you're traveling all season long anyway. So I don't understand how, like, plenty of athletes like a city, stay in that city, and then go work from wherever they're going to go work and still have a home where they were at. But like James says here, we want Dame in the playoffs. We want meaningful Dame hoops. We want Dame time, damn it. And when it matters, not volleyball line 3-pointers at the end of a third period in the 73rd game of the regular season. Yeah, no, like let me get it in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. Come on, or the Eastern Conference playoffs.
His game 6 buzzer beater against Houston in 2014. It was like the Challenger exploded. I remember exactly where I was. I remember everything about that day. I remember being like, ooh, Rockets Blazers tonight. Like, that shot was right in my formative years. Like, that's one of my favorite playoff plays I've ever seen. And like, I can't tell if it's like, we want to do right by Dame, so we want to get a championship contender into Portland. Like, doing right by Dame is sending him to a contender, frankly, and it's probably better for your organization. But it's like, we want Dame to get what he deserves, but we want to give him what he deserves. We don't want him to get it from somebody else. It's like a weird, I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
it's like that episode of The Office when Michael Scott has to drive his girlfriend to Nashua, and he's like, this is what I hope for you. I hope that you meet someone. I hope you meet a great guy and you fall in love. And she starts crying and says, thank you. And he goes, and it's great because that's happened, because you've met me and we are in love. Like, that's the Portland Trailblazers right now with Dame Lillard. Like, just let it go, man.
Just because the Michael Scott reference, I've actually got a Michael Scott shirt on.
Let's go.
The quote is the one episode where he just says, I am dead inside. And it's just the caption picture. My fiance got it.
There's 2 things you can count on this show: basketball talk and Office references, at least. Yes. Except whenever I'm on vacation, you might not get them. I don't know. But Michael says, Dame is my favorite player not named Giannis or Darren Fox. I'd give anything for him to be in Milwaukee. Now, that would be fun. Now, I do not have the wherewithal, nor do I have the trade machine up on an open tab to try to figure that out. But John, you have some thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, Middleton would have to opt in, right? Is his player option this year? He would have to opt in. And Dame makes like 50 though. And the Bucks don't have any picks.
I don't see how.
They traded 5 seconds for Jay Crowder.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. oh, that's great. That created some memes too when that happened.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know what do you trade Drew Holiday and you trade half the team in return for Dame? I don't even know. And then you get a third team involved to get some draft capital moving. I don't know.
Yeah. Middleton would have to opt in, and then you'd have to move him immediately. as part of it. He's 32. Like, it'd have to be. And who else do you have, man? That would be cool because that's actually like a
they're a very deep team. They could afford to
forward.
They could afford it, but Justin says the Sixers will make a push for him if Harden goes to Houston, and he followed that by saying then Embiid will finally have his closer. Now, Ryan chimes in. Thank you, Ryan, for your comment. We appreciate you. He says, my personal opinion, if Dame moves out to a decent team, he would realize he is not the player who he thought he was. Now, that is interesting. I have been known a time or two to have similar takes when it came to the likes of, Chris Bosh, Kevin Love. I've always been one to say that even on a bad team, someone's got to score. When you play 48 minutes a night, somebody's probably going to average close to 20 points a night on any team in the NBA. You're going to have at least one guy who does it. So sometimes you do have to take into account, like, is this just being the best player on a bad team? I personally think Dame is still an all-star quality player. I still think he's got it, but it would be very interesting. It would be very interesting to see him play with an actual a cast around him. Like, would he be able to fit as a piece of a whole, right? Well, as he gets older, is he going to be willing to take that back seat, or is he going to be like Allen Iverson, refusing to come off the bench and hurting his team, stuff like that? James says the hot take on Dame there. Oh, here we go. Lee brings one up. This is the one I was saving with the details, so let's do it. We're going to switch to a LeBron trade real quick. Wait, hang on. I got something else. Okay, Celtics are up 18 with 8.5 to go. Now let's see. Lee adds this other one. Let's go here. Talking of trades, LeBron to Warriors for Kuminga, Wiggins, Poole. Yes. So that would be straight up, right? So LeBron in exchange for was it Kuminga? So the one that I saw was Poole, Kuminga, and Moody. But I think Kuminga and Wiggins might be a little bit like those three with Wiggins in there. I think is way. I don't know that works. But anyway, what do you guys think about that? We've seen some crazy LeBron for players, straight up trade offers coming out. Nate, we haven't heard from you in a minute. What do you think first about LeBron getting traded?
I mean, I think it would be a stupid trade just because so much is up in the air. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't. I think it's just dumb, period, until you figure out what the hell he's actually going to do. And I think you still probably need to pay more than that, as weird as it is.
Yeah. Is it going to be that much of a, like, I think year one, it's still going to be like Steph and LeBron's going to be sick if they're, 48, they're still going to get buckets. But is it going to be like an immediate contender like that list of names would have been a few years ago? Or is this going to be like the 96 Rockets where it's like we got Hakeem, Charles Barkley, and Clyde Drexler on the team. This team's going all the way, but it's –
Or the 04 Lakers with Karl Malone and Gary Payton.
Yeah, exactly like that. Like, so is it – I mean, which – is it going to be like that? Because they are aging out. They're all-time greats, but, like, man, that's – I don't know. Because your Wiggins, Kuminga, and Poole is all your current wing depth. You'll still have GP2, I suppose, and then you're just filling out the roster with vet mins. Like, I don't know, man. That was a deep cut.
With the deep cut. Justin says LeBron to Philly. Now, I also need to clarify something. I did jump in the comments to clarify this, but he said, wow, Kev, wow. Allen Iverson comparison. I just want to point out, I was talking about when Denver traded Allen Iverson to the Detroit Pistons. All right. No shade meant at Philly AI, but I actually watched at John's request, which is another good reason for you guys to get in our Discord. because we're sharing other people's content that you should watch, not just our own.
Oh,
I
did
watched
you see
that
Yeah.
fall of the rebuilding Pistons. Yeah, I watched that video today on my lunch break, and I was
It's
reminded.
just so fun, man.
First of all, AI could still drop an amazing dime even at that age. But yes, he
Went to an
caused the
All-Star
Pistons.
game in Detroit.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. He wasn't done yet, but man, that team sure probably could have used him as being their leader off the bench. Oh, did you get it, Rodney?
Yeah, I was just laughing at that.
You know who I think should trade for LeBron?
Who's that?
The Indiana Pacers.
Get out of here. Wouldn't even want it.
Indeed.
Even want it. They would have to mortgage. So that's what they send Buddy Hield back to the Lakers in exchange as part of the LeBron deal. Say, here, you want him now? No, that wouldn't happen. I think realistically, and maybe here's where we can have a little bit of fun playing the hypothetical game. There's a few minutes left in the fourth, so maybe we can stick around, ride this game out. Ooh, Timberwolves, is that where Brownie's going?
Brown of the Wolves, Ant and Braun. You guys can have Cat. We'll give you Cat and yeah, you're right, James. He would never go to the Pacers.
I don't know if he's talking about Pacers or Timberwolves when he says
probably the
he ain't
Wolves,
playing
no
for
doubt.
that shit franchise. Either one, probably, yes.
You know what, though? At least the Pacers have some proud history. I can't even say that the Timberwolves do.
The Pacers'
You don't
history was
remember that
proud before
04?
they joined the NBA.
Wait, here.
Oh, yeah, there it
You
is.
don't remember that 04 run?
Sam Cassell. Dude.
Listen, Nate, if Cassell never got hurt, we're looking at an illustrious history. We're looking at a banner. Oh, man.
With the exception of Wally Zerbiak, who will forever
All
be
day.
shunned in this household.
Yeah.
That Timberwolves squad back in the day was pretty solid, you know.
That team was beating the 04 Pistons all day, dude. Healthy all day.
Maybe.
It shouldn't have been the 04 Pistons. It should have been the Pacers. But, you know, Meta
And
World
the
Peace had to blow
Pacers
that
too,
whole thing
too.
up, didn't he?
That's
yeah.
true.
No, the pain of the early 2000s will never leave me.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Just a couple of things on the trade front here, but before I say that, I was looking at the Pacers roster just to.
Justin says if LeBron goes to the Pacers, he would kiss my ass on Main Street. Go ahead, Nate. You were saying?
Well, which Main Street are we talking about here?
Yeah, I don't think any of them. I don't think he cares. That he's that confident. It's never going to happen. Probably High Street here in Columbus. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. I was going to say, before I have a couple other trade things for the first pick that I saw, I wanted to say I was looking at the Pacers roster just real quick because I was kind of curious, like legitimately, what would it take to get LeBron? And everybody except for Gabe York on their list has a picture on here.
Gabe York.
List him being on the Pacers roster. I mean, you would know better than me.
I was going to say, outside of 2K, not super familiar with Gabe York's game, if I'm being honest with you. So we'll call him a rotational depth piece, probably a G League guy. I don't really know. Let me know in the comments if you're a Gabe York stan. But yeah, what have you got on the LeBron trade? You said you've got a couple of trades, Nate. What you got?
Well, for the first pick, I just a couple other things that were in this article. One of them was the Thunder trade Chet Holmgren, their 12th pick, 2024 first rounder from the Rockets, 2025 first rounder from the 76ers, and 2026 first rounder from the Clippers for the number one pick. And then the other crazy one that I saw was the Spurs get Paulo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, and 2 first-round picks, the 6th and the 11th for the first.
What? Why? Why would you do that? Why would you trade? Correct me if I'm wrong. Paulo Banchero did, in fact, win Rookie of the Year, right? That didn't
He did.
somehow magically not happen. You know, they didn't just decide to give it to my boy Benny as a nice try, kid. Yeah, so why would you trade the Rookie of the Year? Now, Jalen Suggs, I understand, has been hurt, and I might be a little bit higher on him than most are, but I watched what he did in Gonzaga. And let's not forget, at one point, everyone was really high on this guy. So you got Jalen Suggs as well, who, if anyone can afford to get rid of him, it would be Orlando. They're kind of deep in the young guard department right now, especially with the resurgence of Markelle Fultz. However, Paolo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, and the 6 and 11 pick for the number 1 pick when you already have last year's Rookie of the Year, how much more upside do you need than Paolo Banchero? I think that's foolish. I would rather see them. I wouldn't mind seeing them package that and get a veteran to add to the young core if they think they're ready to make a playoff run. But honestly, with the injury issues they've had with guys like Jonathan Isaac, with Suggs, with even Markelle Fultz, like, I honestly would probably just take the picks if I'm Orlando. I would not be trading. Banchero for Wemby. What about you, John? Am I crazy?
I wouldn't either. I'm taking the bird in the hand.
Yeah, as our one commenter said a little back in the day earlier, I'd rather have Wemby. How about that? Yeah, I'd rather just make that trade. I'd rather not make that trade if I'm at 1 than I don't know. I guess I got it backwards. I'd rather have Paolo than make all of those trades for Wemby. But Nate, what else you got? That one was pretty wild.
That's really all I've seen. They were all from the same article. The crazy Orlando trade was from Andrew Lopez, and that Chet Holmgren, all the picks one was from a guy named Kevin Pelton. But aside from that, I haven't really seen anything else. But I've also been kind of, not really focused on anything basketball related, just with it being, Indianapolis 500 weekend here and everything going on with that. So, but that's the only other things that I've seen in regards to some crazy basketball trades.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. We'll get ready to hit our last segment here. Before we do, I think John's going to take a farewell. We appreciate you, sir, for joining us. Do you want to tell the folks where they can find you?
Yes, sir. You can find me right here on Bite Size Sports every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. And then I'm also talking Vikings every Thursday, generally 7 or 8 Central on Minnesota Sports Talk on YouTube, Skull World Live. And then otherwise, Twitter, in the Discord. You'll see the link in the chat. We're always sending tweets or articles or headlines or stupid memes back and forth and just kind of talking ball throughout the week. So if you ever just want to chop it up outside of these live chats, jump in the Discord. But yeah, otherwise we'll see you Tuesday talking a little football.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Looking forward to talking football with you. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks,
Bring
guys.
it back.
Skull Vikes.
Go Bears.
I knew Nate wouldn't let you get with that one.
Yeah, I almost left the studio in time. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
That is great. Well, thank you, John. And Nate, we will probably take our exit here soon. There's only 2 minutes left in this NBA game, so why don't we check in with you one more time for our NHL update before I have a Sixers prediction in the chat I'd like to read. What's going on the ice?
It is going to overtime.
Of course.
2-2. So, going to be on my feet here in a little bit with how crazy I bet this overtime is going to be one way or another. Funny enough, they will not hit the over on the over-under, though. I mean, for all those degenerate hockey gamblers that we have that watch the feeds here. But, it's going to be – you're going to see either I'm pissed or very ecstatic here in a couple of minutes. So we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes on Twitter, and we'll get you out of here soon, Nate. So I just want to go ahead and share this. Once again, thank you to all of you who chatted and in the comments. We really appreciate you. You make this show so much fun to do. You make it worth showing up every week, and we really appreciate you. We couldn't do it without you. And here we go. Justin Herbert said, Sixers coach will be Nick Nurse, Jay Wright, Sam Cassell, or J.J. Redick. You heard it here first. Sources to our dear friend Justin Herbert, who also says even his walleye came back from a 4-1 deficit last night because hockey has been intense. And yes, I love that we had our NHL updates throughout this show. So thank you, Nate, for providing those. That has been a lot of fun. Don't look now, but the Heat have cut it to 12 with 1:14 left in the fourth. But I think we can pretty much call this one. The Celtics are staying alive. Now, I will probably hang out maybe just for a few more seconds. But Nate, it's time to say goodbye. I will let you go first. Tell the folks where they can find you so you can get off this stream and go watch your Golden Knights in overtime.
I gotta say though, real quick before I do, remind me? Did you pick the Heat to still win this series?
I did pick the Heat to still win this series. Yes, I believe you're the only one on this network so far that's been ballsy enough to pick the Celtics to win in 7.
You want to do a little kind of friendly, kind of not friendly way?
Go on. I'll hear you out. What are we betting on?
So you get the Heat, and I'll take the Celtics.
Okay.
And the loser has to drink a shoey.
Oh, for the folks at home, what would a shoey be? Let them know. What am I really wagering here, so I can have them help me out in the comments on whether or not I should do this.
You would be drinking a beer out of your shoe.
What do you think, guys? Should I bet it? Am I confident enough that the Heat will win this series that I'll bet a shoe beer on it? I don't know. I think, you know what? I'll take you up on that. All right. So if the Celtics win in 7, I'll be doing mine. It might be on one of our social medias. I might not be able to do it here in the studio because a shoe beer will get all over the place. But I'll take you up on it. The only deal is though, if they lose, Nate, then you have to drink a shoe beer.
Oh,
all right.
I'm absolutely fine with that.
All right. Is it my? And are we drinking out of our own shoes? Right. I don't have to drink out of your shoe.
Yeah. No, don't worry about drinking out of my shoe.
Thank God. All right. I'm fine with that. So there we go. The game has ended. So the NBA Eastern Conference Finals Game 5 are in the books. Boston Celtics have won. So Nate is still alive for now. Nate, before we say our goodbyes, where can the folks find you? Any parting works for the good people at home?
You can find me. Most social media handles are at Ben Ham and Turkey. So if you're hungry, I can't get you a sandwich. So make your own damn sandwich, but you can find me there. And my parting words would have to be, have a safe and wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Have a good time with family or whatever you'd be doing. And for all our viewers and chat members and everybody at this network, if you've got some time, maybe just, give the 500 a glance on Sunday and see what you're missing out on.
Ooh, there you go. It's a packed weekend because we not only have the 500, there are multiple wrestling pay-per-views that I'll be watching. I might have to do that on the second channel. We don't do a lot of that stuff here, but what we do here are fantasy football live streams every Wednesday or Friday. We have Necessary Roughness, as John pointed out, with John, Michael, and Nick, and sometimes even Nate and I and James and Trevor. Tuesdays at 9, and then of course this show every Thursday 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll have bonus content this weekend, maybe an episode of Late Night Bites. The only way you'll know is if you're subscribed with notifications on, so go ahead and do that. That would be great. We would greatly appreciate it. But until then, thank you so much, those of you who have watched and those of you who will watch the replay later on. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time, and until then, take care of yourself. As Nate said, have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Hope you get to do something fun. Watch some sports if you can.